Imperial unit conversions can require 2 steps as well. Here's an example. We're given the height of Mount Everest in feet, and we want to know this height in miles. But there's no feet to miles relationship directly on our table, so we're going to have to do this in 2 steps. We can go from feet into yards, and then we can go from yards into miles. So this is a 2-step unit conversion. So start with our initial measurement, 29,030 feet, and we're going to multiply this by a fraction. Well, let me make sure I get my feet units down there, feet. And we're going to multiply this by a fraction that's going to go from feet into yards. So it's going to cancel our feet, so feet have to be on the bottom, leave us with yards, so yards has to be on top. And there's 1 yard for every 3 feet. So that gets us from feet into yards. And now we want to go from yards into miles, so I'll do this in the same line. And this time, yards on the bottom to get rid of my yards, and miles on top to be left with miles. 1 mile for every 1,760 yards. So let's track through this to make sure my units are going to cancel correctly. Feet cancel with feet, so that I'm left with yards, and then my yards on top will cancel with the yards on the bottom in the next one to be left with miles. Good. So now I should be able to complete this calculation. So I have 29,030, and then times 1 over 3 is the same as divide by 3, and then times 1 over 1,700, so that's divided by 1,760. And this is something I would just do in my calculator. So let's start with this first one here. Let's just divide those first 2 numbers. And I'm going to get a decimal answer, so that's 9,676.6, and I'll just round to a couple, 67, divide by, now I have to do that second division, divided by 1,760, and that'll give me my final answer. And I get 5 point, and I'll just round here to maybe 1 decimal place, 5.5 miles. Example 2, Jill used a measuring wheel to measure the distance from a house to an electrical box, and she measures 25 yards. The way these usually work is that the wheel is 1 yard around, so that each time the wheel turns, this counter just clicks up once on the machine, and then the number of clicks it gives you is the number of yards you've measured. And so we need to know how many inches of wire are needed for that 25-yard distance. So we're converting yards into inches. But again, we have no direct yard to inch relationship, so we have to go from yards to feet into inches. That's a 2-step unit conversion. So we're starting with 25 yards. We're going to multiply by a fraction with yards on the bottom, feet on top. To get rid of yards, leave us with feet. So there's 3 feet for every 1 yard. Then we multiply by a fraction with feet on the bottom to get rid of our feet, and inches on top to leave us with inches. And so there's 12 inches for every 1 foot. So this way our yards cancel, leaving us with feet, and then our feet will cancel in the next step, leaving us with inches. So here I have 25 times 3 times 12. And we can do this all in our calculator. And I get 900 inches.